Crafty Gemini. I post weekly videos right here on my YouTube channel, and after so many of you have asked for it, I'm bringing you a brand new free motion quilting series, and this is video number 1. Alright, so in this first video of my free motion quilting series, I want to talk a little bit about how I set up my machine for free motion quilting. Remember, every sewing machine that you use is going to be a little bit different, so make sure that you check your user manual to see what settings the manufacturer recommends for free motion quilting on your machine. But let's walk through this machine and how I like to use it for free motion quilting. This is the Juki TL2010Q, and this is my baby. I use this machine pretty much every single day, and for free motion quilting, it is absolutely my go-to machine. All right, I also have a long arm, but for those of you that have asked for free motion quilting lessons, I'm going to show you how I do it on this machine. So a few things that we're looking at here is the basic settings. So first of all, this machine allows me to put the feed dogs up or down depending on what I'm working on. Obviously, if I'm piecing a quilt project, I'll have it turned here so that the arrow's pointing to the right. That shows me the feed dogs are up. And when I'm free motion quilting, I like to put the feed dogs down. I've tried it both ways. I know some quilters leave it with the feed dogs up, and I don't really see a significant difference. I just like to put them down. So play around with your machine and see what works. Now the next thing here is speed control. I have a little tortoise and a hare, I'm guessing, right? Because there's a little turtle here for super slow speed, and there's a little rabbit or a hare here for super high speed. For free motion quilting, I usually will have it maybe 3/4 of the way up, and I'm kind of like a speed demon. So if your machine does allow you to play around with the speed settings or speed control on your machine, play around with it. Make it a little bit slower, medium, and high speed and see what works for you. We'll get into that a little bit more on how I like to adjust it as we're working on actual exercises. But today we're just going over the basics. Then we have here our stitch length knob, or the selector here. When I'm piecing, I keep it on a 2, and when I'm free motion quilting, I crank it all the way down to a 0 because I don't need length, right? I just need that needle to stay stationary and just go up and down because I'm going to be moving the quilt sandwich around. So move your machine, set the stitch length all the way down to 0, and definitely make sure that you have it set to a straight stitch. This machine model only does straight stitch, which is great. It's a super high powered straight stitch machine, so I just have to move the stitch length to 0. All right, so we have that, and then we also have on this machine a button for needle up down. And when we get started doing the actual quilt sandwich and how I start with the motions and the exercises that I'll be showing you in future videos, I'll show you exactly how I use that. Then I have another LED strip that I have here. Most of us usually are fighting with our machines. We have different lamps and lights coming in because you want to make sure that your vision is not, you're not squinting your eyes, it's not hurting your eyes. Most of us probably tend to sew late at night. I know I do for sure. So I have purchased an LED strip here, and I'm just going to show you on the machine. Right now I have it on to where just the machine's light is on, okay? And now I'm going to turn on the LED light strip that I have already installed. So it's a lot brighter, and they work great. So consider getting something like this for your machine if you know you're struggling already with lighting, especially for quilting, because it's free motion. You want to keep an eye on where you're going next, and you want to make sure the bed of your machine is well lit so it can allow you to do that easily, okay? Now, what else? Here, let's talk a little bit about presser feet. So I have the regular foot that comes on my machine for piecing, for 1/4 inch patchwork and stuff like that. But my machine also comes with a few other different feet that you can use for free motion quilting. So let me show you those. So let's talk about the presser foot that you need to have on your machine for free motion quilting. This is the regular piecing foot, and you can see that the one I have installed on the machine now is quite different. It's round, it has a nice big opening in the center, and my machine, this Juki, came with these two, a 1/4 inch and a 1/5 inch free motion quilting foot. Sometimes you'll check your accessory bin, see if your new machine came with it. If you have a newer computerized machine, oftentimes they'll be included in there. Some manufacturers also will have a foot that looks like this. Some will be an oval instead of a circle like these, and some will be more like a letter C. The more open this area is and the more visibility, the better it's going to be for you for your free motion quilting, because you'll be able to see your stitches better, and you'll also be able to see where you're going with those free motion movements. So now let's talk a little bit about thread, and I like to use a 50 weight cotton on top and on the bobbin and the underside. Okay, so I'm going to open this up and show you how the bobbin works here. Maybe your machine is a computerized one or a new model of the fancier machines where it has a drop-in bobbin. This is the same thing. This machine is more like a semi-industrial, so it still has the bobbin with the bobbin case, the metal bobbins. And so if you're a beginner at free motion quilting, my recommendation to you would be whatever thread you use on top, also use the exact same thread in the bobbin, at least to get started. Later on, once you familiarize yourself with your machine, your settings, and if you have a metal bobbin case like I do here, if you're a little bit more comfortable tweaking the settings and things, I know several quilters that use a heavier weight thread on top and a lighter weight in the bobbin. But if you're just starting off, just stick to the exact same thread and weight. That way you'll minimize some tension issues, especially if you don't know how to correct them yourself. So I'm using a 50 weight cotton. If you want your stitches to kind of show up and be a little bit more pronounced, go down in the size of thread. So for example, a 40 weight cotton is going to be a little bit thicker than the 50 weight. A 30 weight cotton is going to be even thicker, and there's some really gorgeous variegated threads out there that you can use to really add texture and dimension to your quilt projects. But if you're starting off and you're kind of just going to be experimenting on sample quilt sandwiches like we'll be working on in future videos, go ahead and just use the same thread that you use to piece your quilts with. Remember, the same on top and in the bobbin. Now let's talk a little bit about the extension table on my machine. This machine is nice and big. It has a big throat space here, and it also came with this huge extension table that gives me almost 23 inches from here to here, which is great. If you can get a large extension table, or if you can have your sewing machine inset inside a work desk or a sewing machine table, a big one, then that means you're going to usually have a lot more space on the outside parts, which is going to be great, because if you're thinking about free motion quilting your larger quilt projects, you're going to need a lot of space because you don't want the weight of that quilt to be dragging on you when you're trying to move it around underneath the presser foot. So if you have an extension table for your machine, go ahead and set it up, because we will be using that in our exercises. So that's it for this first video of my free motion quilting series. I hope you enjoyed it. Remember, if you're joining us new, make sure to click right here, and that will take you to the full video playlist where you can watch every video in this series from beginning to end. Let's do a quick recap of my machine settings. I set my stitch length all the way down to 0. I've put my feed dogs down, and you can play around with that on your machine and see what works, whether you want to have them up or down. I have my stitch speed selected to kind of where I think I like to have it, but we will be making adjustments to that once we start stitching in future videos. My presser foot here needs to be changed. I'm going to go ahead and install one of my free motion quilting feet. And then for the needle, you can use an 80-12 universal in a pinch. You can also use a quilting needle, which they sell them just for this. But whatever you have on hand is going to be great for you just to practice with. And then the last thing was the thread. I'm using a 50 weight cotton on top, and I wound a bobbin with the exact same thread. Aside from that, everything else is pretty much extra. If you have an extension table, that will help. If you can have your machine set down in something, that will help as well. And then any other devices that you like to use, we'll cover that in future videos, but this is pretty much just the basics to get started with free motion quilting. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you'll get ready to prep your machine for some free motion quilting exercises coming up in future videos. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.